writes, Cindy Close and her longtime friend decided to have a child together. They were both in their 40s, not married, but something went terribly wrong after she had the twins. Whole mess is in a court in Houston that may determine once and for all some other dimension of what a mother is. Joining me, attorney Lisa Bloom, author of Swagger, New York Times bestseller, and the woman who gave birth to the twins, Cindy Close. All right, Cindy, this story, it's complicated. Well, let me just start with this. You went out with your friend to have a baby, and this was sort of a verbal agreement you had, right?
Right.
Tell me the story.
Well, we basically, were friends, and we discovered, that we were both unmarried and wanted to have children. And so we decided that we would do that together because we trusted each other.
Okay, hold on.
And
now, the customary way, Lisa, you'll bear with me on this. The customary way to do that is two people have a relationship, they have sex, they have a child.
But not everybody.
Not everybody.
Right? There are alternative kinds of relationships.
Of course. And so what made this alternative, Cindy? Why wasn't it a customary action?
Well, first of all, we weren't really involved that way. We were just friends. Also, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it makes conceiving a little bit more difficult.
Okay. And so you went ahead, and I guess, as I understand the story, then you had trouble as a couple having babies. Tell me about that part.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by that.
What came next?
We decided, that as friends we would be co-parents, and we went into a fertility clinic to find out what the options were. And basically the two options were artificial insemination and in vitro fertilization. We tried artificial insemination a few years ago, and because of medical reasons, we didn't actually make it to that point, and it was basically a failure. We basically thought about giving up on it for a while, but last year we started talking about it again, and we decided to try IVF, which had a higher success rate than artificial insemination.
IVF with your eggs?
That's what we had talked about, but when we went to the doctor, he suggested, because of my age, I was 46 at the time, and he said that because of my age, he recommended that we use donor eggs to lower the risk of birth defects.
All right, so you succeeded in having the twins. My understanding, she was actually breastfeeding the twins, Lisa. Mm-hmm. And tell me what happened next.
I had just started learning to breastfeed my daughter when their father's partner called into the hospital while I was doing that and found out I was doing that. And he pretty much blew up, and they rushed over to the hospital with a temporary restraining order they had gotten, which had not even been served to me yet.
So you say his partner, was this somebody you'd been dealing with all along?
No.
Did you know there was a partner?
Not until the day the babies were born.
And it's a girlfriend or a boyfriend?
Boyfriend.
Okay, hang on, Lisa. What do we do with this?
Okay, so this is a longtime friend, though, and yet she didn't know he was gay. And there's a lot of things about this story I don't really understand. Why anybody would be upset that someone's breastfeeding, which is the healthiest thing you can do for a newborn.
Their kids, right.
But Cindy, I also have to ask you, at the point where you realized it wasn't going to be your egg, it would be a donor egg, then you had to know this is not going to be biologically your child. That's a big departure from the previous agreement, isn't it?
Not to my way of thinking. Parenting is parenting.
Yeah. And so, here's what's going on here, and this is really the theme of your whole show tonight. What makes a parent?
What makes a parent?
Is it biology? And I have to say, in the law, I think we're starting to experience a big shift. It used to be all biology.
Well, it's still a lot of that remnant left behind.
If it was your sperm, if it was your egg, you're the parent. If it's not, you're not. And I think in Texas, where Cindy is, she's going to have a hard time because she's not biologically connected to these kids. In the eyes of the law, she's a surrogate mom. And if you don't have a written agreement that you're the surrogate and you're going to have some rights, you're probably out of luck in court. I assume it's what your attorney told you.
You're wrong. I'm sorry. You're wrong.
Okay, correct me.
In Texas law, my understanding of having learned about a bunch of this since this started happening.
I can imagine, yeah.
In Texas law, you're the mom if you give birth. Biology notwithstanding, it doesn't matter. If you give birth, you're the mom.
Okay, so, but that hasn't been decided yet. And he's in court, and he's the biological dad, and right now he has custody, right?
She has part-time.
You have visitation.
Custody has not custody has not been awarded by
Yeah.
any of the decrees that as I understand it. He has possession of them, but not custody.
In the meantime, you have visitation. You're still seeing the children, is that right?
Right.
Are they with
I do
you?
have visitation.
They're with you even now, I understand. Is that correct?
No, I'm not visiting them at the moment, no.
Okay, I thought that was the case.
So, and of course, the takeaway for anybody watching is if you have any kind of unusual parenting situation,
Write
you
it down.
have to go to an attorney, and you have to.
What if you can't afford that? Can you go to Legal Aid Society?
You have to. You think she can afford the attorneys that she has to have right now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's much cheaper to get an attorney at the outset.
You can't afford not to have an attorney.
Yeah, it's preventative, right?
Oh,
it's like
my.
insurance. I mean, you have to.
And let me ask this in all seriousness. Could you go to a Legal Aid Society? Would they be able to handle a complex?
Probably. Would they be able to? Yes. Would they? Probably not, because there are a lot more cases, than there are attorneys.
They're too busy
to help people for free or low
All right,
cost.
speaking of attorneys, we asked the attorneys for the twins' biological father for a statement. We did not hear back from him. Let's take a quick call. This is Beth. Beth, what do you got from us here in New York?
Hey.
Beth.
I have a hard time believing she was, hoodwinked just because, this is a big thing to enter into. I feel a bit torn on the issue because I empathize with the fact that, she got pregnant. She probably had a relationship with these children while she was, having the pregnancy and whatnot. But I can't ignore the fact that she kind of entered into this agreement so naively, without any consideration to her own rights.
Well, let's ask her about that. Don't you wish you hadn't been so naive? Don't you wish you'd written everything down? Don't you wish you'd seen an attorney, Cindy?
Well, certainly I do wish that I had been more proactive in self-defense on this, but the bottom line is I trusted him. He was my friend. I trusted him in the same way that you trust someone that you're going to get into a more serious relationship with. You trust your husband, you trust your boyfriend. I trusted him in that manner.
And Cindy, I can see, although we're at Skype here, I can see it makes you sad to think about that. It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
It makes me terribly sad because the trust has been broken, obviously, and
Yeah.
I don't think that can ever be gotten back, but, it's... in retrospect, I should have protected myself, but who thinks of that when your dream is hanging out there in front of you?
And it's so sad. I don't want everybody to be a lawyer and think worst case scenario.
No, but everyone's got to have a
they
lawyer.
do in their
Everyone's got to
life.
have
But
a
if you're
lawyer.
doing something as momentous as bringing children into the world in a non-traditional way, you do have to. And I'm very sorry about what happened to you. Were you paid for being pregnant?
Cindy, hold your thought.
No,
Wait.
no, I wasn't paid.
Okay.
I was never a surrogate in any stretch of the imagination. I never agreed to do that.
Okay.
I always intended to be the mother from the time we started discussing this.
Which I think is what's at issue in some